Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Westerling, Manager of Special Programs for Google Wireless Services, and welcome to this broadcast tutorial for Google's Network Planner. If it's your first time tuning in, here's how these videos work. If you're looking for our quick start video, that's the best way if you're a new user of Network Planner to get up to speed on all of the settings and the basics of Google's Network Planner. That's available in the Google Network Planner channel here on YouTube. So if you're joining us here for the first time, just a new user to the Network Planner, go look for that quick start video. I'll take you through the settings, all those important project settings, because one project setting wrong and your forecasts, your predictions are all going to be all screwed up. So look through that quick start video, follow that along. That's a good 45-minute session plus Q&A that shows you how to use the Network Planner. Now in January, I did another video webinar with some new features that launched at the end of 2021. Those were the reporting features plus multiband. So those are not covered in the Quick Start, but are in a separate video that I did back in January. And both the Quick Start video and the January video give you a lot of additional material about the Network Planner, how it works, and how to use it. Now today, we're going to look at two new features of the Network Planner and how to use those new features. So here's our agenda. Looks like this. We're going to begin with a very quick overview of the Network Planner, how it works, and then we're going to get into the new features, side-by-side comparisons, and what's called deployment statistics, deployment stats. Then, after that, we'll do a general Q&A. If you're joining us as an experienced Network Planner and you have questions about Network Planner, happy to take those live. And at the end, I'll show you as a review how to provide feedback to us and also how to get online help for the Network Planner anytime, even when I'm not here for you via webinar on YouTube. So, a reminder to you, you can use to ask questions in the Q&A, you can use YouTube chat to post those questions. You do now have to subscribe to our channel in order to post to the chat, but it happens instantly. You just have to click that red subscribe button. So feel free to join the 348 folks who've already subscribed to Google Network Planner at their various companies, and you can also then subscribe. You'll be notified of when we post new videos and also be able to ask questions there in the Q&A. I'm going to switch over to the Network Planner now on the screen, and I'm going to give just a quick brief warning. The only time I've been doing these webinars since before the pandemic started, so I've done a bunch of these, and the only time I've ever lost the connection to YouTube with our streaming software is when I switch over to the Network Planner screen here. So if I lose you, don't go anywhere. I'll rejoin the stream in about 2 minutes after I restart the streaming software. So here we go. I'm going to switch over now to the that live screen capture here, and let's see how this works. And hopefully you are now seeing the Google Network Planner. So what we're going to do, and by the way, feel free to log in wherever you are if you have access to the Network Planner. Hopefully you do. Use that URL that's there in the chat, and you can join in and follow along, because all of the features that I'm showing have already been released today. There's no previews, there's no testers, there's no, I mean, we've done all that. Now it's available to everyone. So everything you see will be, you can try and kick the tires wherever you're watching from today or tomorrow, as these sessions are recorded and will be available afterwards. So, oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. If you want, you can always rewind. We allow rewind during these sessions. So if you want, you can just rewind the video and rewatch something that I've covered, and also the videos will be available after I go live here. So we'll make these available on our channel as well. So I'm going to open up this demo project here. Once I've logged in, just click open, and it's going to bring me down to Little Rock, Arkansas, where we've got our little demo project here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the coverage so we can see what we're looking at here. We're going to do this one here, and you notice we've changed the icon a little bit. It used to be a little eyeball, now we've got a screen icon there, so we can see all of our coverage. And I'm going to close these site icons for right now. So here's our coverage in Little Rock for this particular wireless network that I've put together. And let me give you, again, just a quick overview of the Network Planner. We've got Google Maps here in the middle, which is now, as of I guess January, end of December, featuring a full Maps user interface, including the pan tilt, so we can do this kind of cool thing where we're tilting around. Just hold down the Shift key to do that. That's new. And it's called WebGL is what we integrated. So this is exactly now mirroring the current Google Maps interface that you should see on your computer or tablet. Now, on the left-hand side, we have a bunch of different tabs here. Project tab, which shows various overlays that we can display on the map. Also, you can put demand points, addresses, and view your report results as an overlay here in the project tab. The coverage tab shows all of the coverage that I've calculated for my project. The CBRS tab is for our Google SaaS customers who are using the Network Planner because they're Google SaaS customers. These are the spectrum availability maps, which are updated daily, as well as the DPA neighborhoods, which don't change but are good to know. And then the map tab here lets you toggle on and off things like this terrain elevation, which I particularly find useful. If you want to look at the contours, we can add those 3D shadings to give you a sense of elevations there. Also the site labels and site icons if you prefer to have those on and off. On the far left, we've got a couple of more buttons that you can click to either view the sites, these overlays, or our reports tab, which we'll get into in a minute, and all of your antennas in your antenna library are over here on the left. And on the top, we got a bunch of other buttons that add functionality to the Network Planner, including one that we're going to get to right now. And that is as we demo what's called data raster comparisons or coverage comparisons. This is a new way, which I call split screen, and it lets you compare two different propagation calculations side by side. Very cool, very useful. Let me show you how it works. There's two ways to start the side-by-side comparison tool. The first way is this icon here at the top of the screen. It's called Toggle Split View. When I click the split view, it's going to split my screen into a left and right. And what I'm going to do is double-click the sidebar here so that actually closes up. And now you can see I've got my propagation that I already opened up here on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I've got an empty map. Now you'll notice when I click to move and drag the left map around, it moves the right one as well. So they're in sync. So any place that I go to or scroll to on the left map, I'm going to see that on the right map. If I want to undo that, I can just click this little button here, which unsyncs the maps and then lets me navigate separately within each of the maps. When I click Sync Maps, it brings them back into sync at the same location. So that's one way to open up the split screen view. The other way, I'm going to turn it off here at the top. I guess that's a good thing to know how to turn it off. You've got an X close button here, and you can also click this split view button at the top of the screen to turn it off. The other way to get into split screen view is let's go to the overlays here, which is the overlays button here on the left. We click on coverage, and I'm looking now at my received power for what I call my no airport propagation. I had a site that I built at the airport. This is showing without the airport. So I'm going to go down here, and you'll notice I have another run of coverage that I calculated here, and this one is received power with the airport site. And if I right click, now if I single click, it's going to switch to that propagation. So that's what you're used to doing. You're used to being able to just single click and then see a particular propagation. But now, remember, there's tons of right click functionality in the Network Planner. If I right click on this received power here, I have some options that weren't here before. I can either show the data or I can compare the data. And when I click compare the data, it's going to open up split screen view with the other propagation shown. So here we have two different propagation runs, one with the airport site and one without. So what I'm going to do is zoom into the airport, which is easy to find because it's a big flat area here right of downtown. And here we can actually see one example of this airport site, which I had here. And there's another site up I can show you as well. But you can see here, I'm seeing side by side, here's the propagation with the airport site, here's the one without on the left, and I can visually see the difference between the two, which can be very helpful if you're trying to quantify what the impact of a particular site is. And you can do this for received power. You can do it for any one of these data rasters here that you've calculated. And if I go up here, there was another site, for example, this is a little more stark comparison. Here I had a site that we put at this intersection here, and you'll see that on the right-hand side, I can see the coverage of that site. On the left-hand side, that site is obviously not there at all. So this split screen view lets you compare two different data rasters, with different configurations side by side. You can really get a sense for how they line up, and you can, just like you could before, you can click to edit the colors, and you can change those as well for each of your data rasters. So that is side-by-side comparisons, fairly straightforward but incredibly powerful way now to visualize the calculations that you've done for various different project configurations in the network planner. I'll pause and ask if anyone has any questions. They can post those in the chat. And then I'm going to get into something that's a little more complicated, but also powerful and super cool, and that is deployment stats. So feel free to post a question about that split view if you have any. And then I'll go ahead and queue up our deployment stats demo as well. There is a delay in YouTube broadcasting, if you're not aware. So you're actually probably, if you're watching this live, you're hearing me and seeing the actions on the screen about maybe a minute or so after I've done it. So if there's a slight delay in the chat. And so keep that in mind. That's why I'm sort of stalling for a little bit here in case there's somebody who does have a question. So I've now reset everything. If no questions, no problem. I'm going to dig right into the deployment stats, and we're going to look at those now. And I'll keep a watch here on the chat in case one of those questions does come about. And again, we're doing a live Q&A on anything after I'm done with these demos here. So if you've got other questions, you can save those up as well and ask those then. Okay, so let's take a look at deployment stats, which is a new report tool that just launched along with the side-by-side view that I just demoed. So if you click on View Reports, that's this button here, you'll notice that we have a couple of different options for reports. We always had home accessibility, export coverage, and auto planning. I've covered those in the January video that I mentioned in our YouTube channel. So you can go check those out, that video out if you want to check out those other reports. The new one here is called Deployment Stats. And Deployment Stats, one thing I forgot to mention, reports are only available if you own a project. So if you're not seeing this Reports button here, it might be because you're in a project that was shared with you from someone else. Remember, in Network Planner, you can only have one owner of a project, and only the owner of a project can run reports on that project. So if you're not seeing the View Reports button, start a new project of your own, and then you'll be able to run reports on that. You could also, I suppose, make a copy of the project. You can make a copy of the project that was shared with you, and then you'll be able, because you made the copy, you're the owner of that copy, you can then do reports using that copy. So there's all sorts of different ways to get access to the reports. I'm just mentioning that in case you're not seeing that View Reports button. So I have it here because I own this project here, this Little Rock project, and I'm going to click on Deployment Stats. And when I click on Deployment Stats, you can see I have one that I've already calculated here. But let's first I'm just going to click on Deployment Stats, and it's going to give me a new Deployment Stats report. This is what's going to happen the first time you do this. Now you'll notice I've got a warning here that's saying changes were made to the project since the last propagation calculation. Well, that's because I made a few changes this morning getting ready for this webinar. So if I really wanted to do this deployment stats report on the current project, it's warning me that I need to actually rerun the coverage study if I want to actually get accurate stats. In this case, it doesn't matter, but if you see this warning, you might want to actually rerun the study layers so that you get an accurate report. First thing it lets you do is name the report, and And you can also provide additional descriptive language underneath if you'd like to. Now we get into the deployment stats preferences here as you're running this report. There's two different types of sources that you can use for your data. The first is points, and we've done that before. We did a points analysis when we were doing the deployment stats reporting. So if you watched that video or you've used deployment stats, one of the things you can, I'm sorry, I said deployment stats, it's home accessibility. You can do home accessibility based on demand points. Also, auto planning uses demand points. That is specific points on the map where you want to know what the wireless coverage is. So we've seen demand points. You upload those using the import button here at the top. Just click import, and then you can import those demand points, and those will appear as a layer that you can view on the map. But it also lets you use those points as for these deployment stats, and you can run the deployment stats to see how your coverage is impacting each one of those demand points. Now, what I'm going to show you today is something new, and it's also has a totally different use, but it's also very useful, and that's the population layer. So we're using World Pop data, and that's a 2020 data source that's commercially available, and we're using that now and letting you analyze your coverage based on the population in that database. So we're going to essentially run this Little Rock, Arkansas coverage over the population data and see how many people are impacted by the coverage. So this is a really great way to sort of see which site is the most effective, which one is covering the most area, and all that good stuff. So I've chosen my population the population data set as my demand source. And then the next thing I need is a region. It says the report requires a boundary. So we can't just run the deployment stats on the entire world. We have to create an area that we want to run those stats in. And we do that using what's called a polygon. And so we're going to draw the area, the region where we want to see that coverage study done. And in this case, I'm going to actually just do all of Little Rock. So what I'm going to do is click on the polygon button, and I'm just going to click a bunch of times here on the map. We're going to sort of highlight around downtown Little Rock, and we're going to double click at the end, and we've got this polygon now, this KML. Actually, you can export it if you want to as a layer. If I click on the Layers tab, you'll notice I've got this Untitled 2 layer. I can change the color of it if I want to. I can rename it. I can call it my coverage area. And now I've got this polygon. So if I go back to my deployment stats report now that I was doing here, my demo, you'll notice now I've got an option to choose the coverage area border that I just drew. So that automatically fills in, thank you very much, Network Planner, and it's given the region. This is the area that I'm doing the report. So we'll only consider the population or the demand points. I'm sorry, just for the population. It will only consider the population within this boundary when it's calculating the statistics. The next thing I have to choose is the coverage run. Which coverage run am I going to use? Now, you notice I've got this warning that I need to rerun the coverage, the study layers, but I can actually use any coverage run that's in memory. So if I want to purposely do my report on an older coverage run, I can do that. I just select the older coverage run, and then it will run the report using that. The last thing I choose is the Rsrp threshold. That is the threshold, the minimum threshold for signal that constitutes valid coverage. So you choose whatever you want to have as your minimum threshold. Oh, look, this is another great, if you're watching this and new to the Network Planner, we do give these cool little underlined hints within the tool. Anywhere you see something that's underlined, you can mouse over it and see the definition of that term. So hopefully that's a helpful little feature as well. So once you put all these things in, you click Start Deployment Stats Report, and it will run that study. Now, here's an important thing to remember. If you haven't watched my other reports video yet, when you're running a report, it actually has to lock the project. So you can't make any changes to sites while you're running your deployment stats report. And this is obviously because you don't want to alter the results that are being computed at that time. So remember, that's why I'm not clicking start right now, because I don't want to lock this project. I want to be able to do other things and demo them for you if people have Q&A on other subjects. So I'm not going to click deployment stats start report. I'm just not going to do that for right now. But like those cooking shows on TV, I've already done one for you. So let's take a look at the one that I already did and see how deployment stats looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to my coverage layer here. I'm going to turn off my my overlay. And let's turn on the sites as well here on the map so you can see where these sites are. And that will make things, hopefully things will make a little more sense here. So zoom in and we'll actually take a look at our results. Now, in the user interface here, you'll notice I've got a couple of different ways that I can look at my data that's been calculated. The first is number of sites versus height. This is fairly straightforward, and you'll notice when I click on that, it pops up the results at the bottom of the window. Shows me some statistics here as well. The maximum height, 90th percentile, as well as the median and the average height for the site height. So these are the heights of my towers, actually the heights of my antennas as they are deployed here in Little Rock. And you can see that I've got 4 sites that are super high, and I've got a bunch of smaller maybe microsites here within Little Rock as well. And you'll also notice as I mouse over each bar, it's going to show me which sites are actually being shown. So these are the 4 sites that are super high. I've got those 2 downtown sites on downtown buildings. One is a 3-sector site, one is a NAMI site. You can see them highlighted there in pink on the map. And as I mouse over here on these other ones, I can see the other sites that are lower down and how high each one of those is. Now you'll notice for each deployment stats statistic, I can dial up and down I can customize things just a little bit. In this case, I can increase or decrease the number of bins, the number of columns that are being shown here, and how much I'm dividing these sites up in terms of their height. So I can dial that up or down, and that also, it's just a nice way to, if you want more or less data, you can experiment with that. Now let's go back. I'm going to click the back button, get back to my deployment stats menu. We're going to look at number of sites versus population. This is where we get into some of the cool stuff. So I click that, and I've got some stats here. Again, I can dial up or down the number of bins. It gives me the population data. Now, some important stuff to remember that I learned as I was first learning this tool as we developed it. This population data is per site. That's an important pro tip here for you that you get thanks to your taking the time to view this video, all right? So remember, these are per site. So when I look at the maximum population here, that's not the population within my polygon. That's the actual maximum coverage of a single site. So the best site that I have that's providing the most coverage is reaching 17,300 people. I also get the 90th percentile, the median, and the average for all of the sites within my Little Rock network here. And just like before, I can dial up or down the number of bins, and I can mouse over to see which site is covering how many people. So if I zoom out here a little bit, so I can see all my sites. When I mouse over this guy here, these 2 sites here are the ones that are covering the most people as according to the, I think this was done via Rsrp. Let me take a quick look here. It is all bands, coverage run, yes, Rsrp threshold. So this is the Rsrp report for negative 108 dB for all of these, all of the sites. I have 2 sites that cover between 16,000 and 17,000 people, and these are those 2 sites. So these are my big blaster sites. These are the ones that are covering the most people according to the deployment stats. Now, let's go back now and take a look at the area maps. We got area versus max channel throughput. So here we're looking at instead of bars here, we're looking at a graph. And the graph is showing the channel throughput over the quantity of area that the sites are covering. And again, here I can customize that by taking a look at by changing the threshold. So if my minimum threshold here, let's say I really want to get at least 10 megabits per second, I click change that here in the threshold, and that's going to change this calculated value of the percentage of area within the polygon where I'm covering at 10 megabits per second. I'm under 50% here, so looks like I need to deploy a few more sites. Going back here, we have that same area calculation. This is area versus Pdsch, and again, we can customize this as well. And if I change this to 10, we can see I'm actually doing even worse here for Pdsch, not surprisingly, but that's 39.1, getting 10 dB of coverage area there. So, but one thing I do get here, by the way, is the total area of my polygon here that I just happened to put together was 338 kilometers square, okay? 2 more reports to look at, and then we'll get into Q&A. Population versus max channel throughput. Again, we're going to look at a graph here. So we're looking at the max channel throughput and then the percentage of the population that is impacted, that is benefited by that throughput at that level. So if I'm looking at 10 megabits per second, I can cover 56% of the population within this map. So that's different from the area, because obviously population density is different from area. So we're looking at population here, covering 56% of the population at minimum 10 megabits per second. Last one to look at is population versus Pdsch. Again, similar here, although you see a much steeper curve because of the fall off of that's typical of that signal measurement that you would get. So again, all of these this information, all these results are available. You'll notice they stick here at the bottom of the screen. So if I'm looking at any one of these graphs, they're going to stay here at the bottom of the screen while I'm going around and doing other things. So if I want to actually go back over here, I want to look at a different layer of coverage, I can actually go ahead and do that. I can turn things on and off. And these report results are still available here at the bottom of my screen. Super handy if you want those there. If you don't, you just click the X button, you can close them all out and get back to a full screen view. So I am going to close these out. And actually, I wonder if I can probably double click that. Yep, I can just double click that handle and collapse that as well. So I'm back to my my site coverage here. And the last thing I wanted to show you is something that's kind of hidden. Again, a pro tip here, we're looking at our deployment stats here, and if I'm in the reports tab and I'm looking at deployment stats and I click the map button up here at the top, hey, look at that. That's not something we've ever seen before. Normally this lets you choose between map view and table view, but here in deployment stats, we get a dashboard now. And our dashboard view shows us all of our results plus some more available all in one screen instead of the map. So I've got all of my different metrics here, and at the top I've got some basic information about the polygon. We saw before, area is 338 kilometers. There's the area covered, the signal level coverage at neg 108 over the entire area. My population at neg 108 is 61.7, and it also gives me the total population. So the polygon that I created around Little Rock is 208K people just within that polygon, according to the population data set. So all sorts of great stuff that we now let you dig into in terms of real world statistics about the network that you've created in the network planner, now available thanks to what's called deployment stats. Phew, a lot of stuff to dig in there, and feel free to rewind if you want to revisit some of those things. And if you have questions about deployment stats or anything else for that matter, you can go ahead and put those into the chat at this time, and I will go ahead and do my best to answer them. I want to remind you that we do have full help documentation in the tool as well. So if you want to get help on any feature in the network planner, all that documentation available up here under the question mark button here. Whoops, now that I've put my mug up there, you don't see the, I'll hide it again. Here, the question mark button is here. And you can click this and you can view the help documentation that's been put in the Network Planner. Click on specific resources and also send us feedback. Important to know about the feedback button because that feedback button is not something that all Google products offer. We let you send feedback directly to us in terms of feature requests or bugs, things that you might see that don't make sense. You can send us instant feedback within the tool and let us know if there are things that you want to, that you think might be misbehaving or otherwise need attention. You just send us that feedback there real quick, and we do get those and go through those. The development and product team take a look at those and see if there's something. Now, if you need tech support, and this is an important clarification that I've made before on these videos, if you need tech support, you actually need to email networkplanner-support@google.com. Again, the email address networkplanner-support@google.com if you want to get tech support on a particular topic. That's different from the feedback. The feedback is if you want to send us a quick heads up about something that you discovered in the tool, then you can use the feedback button for that. Otherwise, if you need tech support, if you need a response, send that by email to networkplanner-support@google.com. And that is the feedback and the help that is available in the Network Planner. So there we go. That is our demo, and I'm very happy that all of you joined up today. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so hopefully you just found this super useful and a great new tool that you want to go try out, and that's great. If you are instead sitting there and typing away, feel free to post a question, and I'll wait just a few more seconds here in case anybody has questions. Otherwise, certainly appreciate your being a Network Planner user and a Google Wireless Services customer. If you're one of our SaaS customers, thank you very much. And certainly appreciate your watching this tutorial. Again, there are other videos in our YouTube channel. Click the red subscribe button if you want to be alerted when we post new videos. And certainly join us for these occasional webinars that I do. I probably do another quick start video coming up in the next month or so. We have a link that I'll put in the video description that lets you sign up on your calendar. You just click that link and it will add the event to your calendar when we're doing our next live demo. We do them Tuesday mornings. They're always Tuesday mornings, but we don't do them every week. We do them occasionally, probably like once a month or so. So we will be available for that. And so for those of you watching, thank you so much. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. I will refresh just to make sure I'm not missing something here on my tablet. But I do want to make sure that we answer questions if you are asking them live. If not, thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate your watching, your using the Network Planner. Do keep in touch and do stay safe. Thanks very much, everybody, and enjoy deployment stats and split screen view in Network Planner. See you next time for our next webinar, and until then, take care.